Today's case is one of the most unsettling accident or murder stories I've ever covered because it starts with something that sounds impossible, and then the details make it worse. A wife is found on her family farm in Iowa, impaled by a corn rake. Her husband says she fell, but the medical findings, the timeline, the missing camera footage, the internet searches, they paint a picture that had a jury saying this was no accident. This is the case of Amy Mullis and the man convicted of her murder, her husband, Todd Mullis. As always, this is for awareness and discussion. If you have strong opinions, keep it respectful, especially when children are involved in a case like this. We're in Earlville, Iowa, on a fall day in November of 2018. Amy Mullis is a mother of three, and she's on the family farm property. At some point, she goes towards a red shed. Later, her teenage son Tristan goes to check on her, and what he finds is a nightmare. Amy is down, face forward, and there is a corn rake protruding through her back. The immediate explanation offered is she fell on it. And on paper, that might sound like a tragic farm accident. But then the doctors start documenting injuries, and the first huge problem appears. That corn rake has 4 tines, 4 prongs, yet Amy has 6 puncture wounds. 6! So right away, investigators are asking, how do you get 6 holes from 4 times in a single fall? Makes you think, right? Well, get this. Medical staff and a forensic pathologist take a hard look at the injuries. They don't just note puncture wounds. They also note injuries consistent with blunt force trauma to areas like the face and other parts of the body, raising their possibility of a struggle before the rake ever comes into play. And there's another detail that makes this darker. The puncture wounds appear to come from more than one angle, suggesting Amy may have been impaled more than once, not just a single accidental fall. So that's when the situation changes from accident to we may be looking at a homicide. As investigators dig into the background, they uncover that this marriage wasn't what it looked like from the outside. There were allegations the relationship had become controlling, intense, especially after earlier infidelity in the marriage. Amy had reportedly confided in friends that she was unhappy and that there were claims she was considering leaving. And then comes the part prosecutors leaned on for motive. Amy was reportedly involved in an affair with a man connected to the farm operation, Jerry Frazier, who worked in management on the farm. A divorce could have meant money, property, the farm business, major financial stakes. And with rumors, affairs, and fear in the background, investigators began to look at the husband. Because in cases like this, people always ask the same question. If this wasn't an accident, who had the most to lose? Well, there was an alibi. And here's where things get complicated. Todd Mullis has an alibi, their son Tristan. The son initially says he was with his father working in the hog farm during the time frame when Amy would have been injured. So Todd and his son are over in the hog barn during that time frame. With Todd and his son in the hog barn, how did Amy get injured? Well, at first, that sounds airtight. If he's with his dad the whole time, then how could have Todd done it? But later, close to trial, Tristan's story shifts in an important way. He acknowledges that there were brief moments where he didn't have eyes on his father, like stepping away for water. And the prosecution says that as the chance of opportunity. Because once you remove, I saw him the whole time, the question becomes, was there enough time for Todd to leave to do this and come back? The defense says no. The prosecution says yes. Now let's talk about the behavior after the discovery, because juries pay attention to actions. One key detail, Todd later claims he removed the corn rake from Amy's back to get her out of the shed because the entry was narrow. And instead of immediately calling 911 from the scene, the story is that they tried to drive for help, with the teen's son in the vehicle in a deeply traumatic situation. At one point, they get in contact with emergency services, but the decision-making becomes part of what jurors and investigators focus on.
Delaware County 911, what's the address of your emergency?
Hello?
Hello?
I'm on the road. I'm out of breath.
Okay. What's going on, sir?
My wife, she's not responsive. I don't know if she's sick. I don't know. She was halfway out the door. I sent my son over to check on her. He yelled at me, and she looks gone.
Okay. We'll get an ambulance for in just a second.
I'm headed there. I grabbed her and threw her in the truck. And my son pulled me.
Okay, you're headed to the hospital, and she's in your vehicle?
Yes, and there's no pulse.
There's no pulse. Can you pull over?
I can.
Okay, how about you pull over?
Can I do anything? She's just, there's nothing.
Okay, what is your name, sir?
Todd Mullis. You feel anything? Amy.
Okay, sir, what happened that she's not conscious or breathing?
She fell on a fork. I put a fork on her. It was an old fork sitting in somewhere, and then she was halfway out of the barn. Like, she was calling to get out, and then pissed and yelled, and I ran over there, and she's laying there. She is not responding.
Okay.
Come on.
Sir, do you feel comfortable doing CPR?
I can try. I'll try anything.
Is she flat on the, are you able to get her flat across maybe the seat?
Yep. 1, 2. 1, 2.
Go on.
Come on, respond. She's cold. Come on. Come on. Come on.
Why not call 911 immediately? Why remove the rake? Why that sequence of choices? Now, none of these things alone prove guilt. People panic. People react differently. But in a case with questionable injuries, those choices become one more brick in the wall. Now, let's talk about the camera footage that was actually on the property. It's like the camera footage that wasn't there. That part makes people's eyebrows go up. The farm had security cameras positioned to capture areas around the property. Investigators looked for footage from the day Amy was injured, and they can't find it anywhere. It no longer exists. They do find recordings from the following day, but not the day that matters. The defense explanation points to equipment being knocked out of place, like antennas, or connections getting disturbed. But to investigators, missing footage and an exact time frame of a suspicious death becomes another red flag. I mean, like at this point, there's like red flags waving everywhere, you know? It doesn't look good for Todd at all. Not a smoking gun, but another why is this missing moment. Now comes the search history. And when there's this digital evidence that frankly can hit like a punch when it's located everywhere. Time and time again, people do not seem to understand that the law can get their hands pretty much on anything when it comes to evidence, especially in technology. Investigators find troubling searches on an iPad tied to the home. Searches related to themes like punishment for cheating, violence, and the thrill of the kill. Todd denies making the searches and says other people used the device. This becomes one of those trial points where the jury has to decide, is this coincidence or misattribution, or is it intent? Because if the jury believes those searches came from Todd, that suggests something far beyond a sudden accident. Next, they have the trial and the verdict. In court, prosecutors argue that death was deliberate, that Amy was murdered in that red shed, and the injuries couldn't be explained as a fall. In court, prosecutors argue that death was deliberate, that Amy was murdered in that red shed, and the injuries couldn't be explained away as a fall. The defense argues the state simply doesn't have enough. No direct witness, limited forensics, no direct witnesses, limited forensics tying Todd to the shed, and timelines that, in their view, don't work. Todd testifies and denies murdering Amy. But after hours of deliberation, the jury returns a verdict: guilty of first-degree murder. Todd Mullis is sentenced to life in prison without parole. And the impact is devastating because now the children have lost their mother and now their father is gone too. The question that still haunts everyone, here's what I can't shake. If the corn rake has 4 tines, how do we end up with 6 puncture wounds? And wound paths suggesting multiple impacts? Was this an accident that got explained away too quickly at first? Or was it a staged scene from the start? Or did it happen in the moment of an argument? And if you were on that jury, would the missing footage plus the search history plus the injuries have been enough for you to say beyond a reasonable doubt? Drop your thoughts below. Do you think the evidence proves murder, or do you think there was reasonable doubt? Until next time, lock the door behind you because every room has a story. I'm your host, Lisa. Stay safe, stay aware, take care.